Fuck y'all, bitch. Period. Yeah. I'm on some new shit. I'm chucking my deuces up to Glossier. Deuces! Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. You already know what time it is. So as you can tell by the title, this is a story time about how I got fired from Glossier today. So when y'all are seeing this, it'll be the next day, but today is September 12th, 2025, and y'all, lo and behold, they fired me. And let's get into that story time. So it all started with me on my first day of work. I had a great hit off with all of my coworkers, my managers that I met so far. But the manager that interviewed me, we're gonna call her Hater, okay? Because that's what she is. She's a weird hater. So Hater, she interviewed me, right? And she was really nice, really cool. I liked her energy. I was like, okay, I can see myself working here, right? Well, lo and behold, I get the job. And literally that whole demeanor changed once I started working there, y'all. So with that being said, she already started off rocky with a funky attitude when she got upset with me during training because I couldn't log into my employee account, right? And it was giving me trouble on a tablet. And in order to access the training, your login needed to work on everything. So I'm telling her okay, my login only worked on one website but not the other, and the other website was to access our schedule as well as access any pay statements, whatever like that. So she was like, don't worry about that. You don't need to be worrying about ADT while you're watching training videos. I said, okay, cool. I put my phone down. That was the end of that. After she made that statement about me being on my phone during training and how I shouldn't worry about that kind of stuff while I'm training, I said, okay, cool. And I stopped, right? Well, it seemed like after that moment, she just for some reason did not like me for whatever reason. And I guess because I simply explained myself instead of just taking the reprimand. And so anyways, after that, management would just do little stuff in between. They always had an issue with something that I did. They always would pull me to the side. I wouldn't do it like this. I wouldn't do it like that. They always had an issue, right? So anytime they had an issue, I would fix it. And for the longest, one of their big complaints was that they felt like I didn't properly sell things to guests. They would be like, oh, the way you word things, it's not making the guests want to buy anything. And I'm like, okay, how should I word it, right? They would literally say the same exact stuff that I would say. And I would tell them, I literally said that, what are we talking about? They'd be like, I just felt like you could have said it differently. And I'll be like, okay, I don't know how different you want me to say what you already told me to say, but okay, whatever. They would complain, I fixed it, no issue, right? So then something happened where I had left my uniform at home because I had brought it home to wash it and I literally forgot to throw it in the dryer. So it wasn't until I was already on the bus halfway to work and I realized oh snap, you left your uniform. So when I got to work, I was like, hey, I left my uniform at home and what should I do next? Should I just go back home? Or am I able to just get a temporary uniform until then? They was like, we'll just give you a little temporary uniform. We just have to take it out of inventory and whatever. I said, okay, cool. So they took it out of inventory and they just be like, hey, make sure you have your uniform. Just keep, be aware of that. I said, okay, cool, right? And I made sure I had my uniform literally the next day. I had took my uniform off because what they require for us is that we don't get changed into our uniform until we're on the clock. So with that being said, after my shift was over, I took off the uniform and they were like, hey, can you put in a hamper in the little device closet? I said, okay, cool, I'll do that. And I did that, right? So anyways, that was one of the reasons that they said that they fired me, because I left my uniform at home. Another reason that they said they fired me was because I was out of dress code. And you're like, how are you out of dress code? So they require that we wear all white shoes. It can't even have any color trimming on the bottom of the shoe. It has to be completely white, right? So in the thing, it didn't say anything about no Crocs or anything. It just said that it would prefer for it to be an all white sneaker, but it never said no Crocs. It just said no open-toed shoes, right? So I had wore my all white Crocs to the job, and I wore it for my first 3 weeks working there, right? maybe even 4 weeks, and I was wearing it every day. So like, it wasn't like I would wear it sometimes. Those are my only white pair of shoes. So one day, one of my managers, we're gonna call her Miss Run That Mouth, because Miss Run That Mouth, one thing she gonna do is if you mess up, she's quick to go run and tell the other managers. So Miss Run That Mouth came up to me and was like, hey, your shoes are not really in dress code, and like that's an issue. And I was just like, okay, so what do you want me to do? Do you want me to go home now, or like what's up? Because I was already not wanting to be at work, so I'm like, please send me home. At this point, I was already tired of working here and I was ready to look for another job. So then she was like, well, let me go ask the other managers. And at that moment when she said that, I figured she wasn't the one that had the issue with the shoes. It was another manager, but they just was too pussy to say something to me. So then she comes back and they said, oh, you could stay, but just the next shift you come in, you have to have some white shoes. Y'all, my next shift was literally the next day, and they had me closing, and I was like also opening the next day. And so I was like, okay, I have my white shoes. So the next morning I had went and picked up some white shoes from Walmart and headed straight to work, right? No issue after that. Anytime they had an issue, I fixed it. Well, they said that was the reason why they fired me. Okay, another reason why they said that they fired me was because my first 3 days there, my first day as well as my third day, I was running late. So I had called the store on the first day, and something about their store line is it does not work. The only thing you can do is leave voicemails, and that's it. It's straight up going to be like, hey, leave a voicemail with your name and your number, okay? So I did just that. They got back to me to let me know, hey, you're all good. And so then that third day, they didn't get back to me when I had let them know I was running late. So I told my manager, hey, I had called the store, but nobody ever got back to me, and I just wanted to make sure like y'all know that I was running late. And I even texted my coworker, and so she was just like, oh, we don't use the store line because since it just goes straight to voicemail, we don't ever use it. We actually have an email that we use that you can tell us when you're running late. And she was like, just strictly use the email, don't even use the cell phone number. So I said, okay, cool. Immediately deleted the number, never called the number again. Well, she said that was the reason why she fired me. Okay, so this is the paper of all the things that they said why they fired me. I'm also going to post screenshots of it if you can't see it. But on here, another reason that it says that I got fired was did not adjust inventory replenishment correctly and failed to notify a leader. That was a lie. And let me tell y'all what happened. So this one specific day, Miss Run That Mouth had asked me to take a box and empty out all the bags in it and fill it up at the packing station, okay? Because the way that Glossier works is, if you've never been, it's like an Apple store. All things out is testers, play with it, and then whenever you're ready to check out, you just say, hey, I want this and this and this, okay? So I take out all the bags and I pack them up, and she was like, make sure it's full, right? Well, I emptied up the whole box and the whole little thing of bags was not full. So I grabbed another box and I said, hey, I just grabbed another box, and I started filling up more of the bags, but I wanted to let you know because I didn't know if I should tell you or not. She said, oh, that's perfect. I'm glad you actually told me because we have to take this out of inventory so that way we can keep account of all the stuff we have. So thanks for letting me know. Well, y'all, that was the reason why they said they fired me. Let's go to the next reason. One of the reasons they said that they fired me was because I mismanaged locking of front doors that closed. Mind you, that was a one-time incident, and they never showed me how to properly lock the doors, but it was a closing shift. It was like my first closing shift. And so with that being said, all they told me is bring in the sign and the little doggy bowl. And so I do just that, and my manager said, hey, can you lock the door? Mind you, doesn't tell me how it's supposed to be locked. So I go up to the door and I lock it just like that. So then she was like, did you lock it properly? And I was just like, I mean, I turned the lock. Is there any more like steps I need to take? And she was like, oh, you have to actually lock the little side locks on the inside of one of the doors. So she goes and checks the door and sees that I didn't lock the inside lock because I didn't know that was on the door. So then she was like, oh, you just have to fold them down or whatever whenever you're ready to lock the door, and then pull it out of the door and turn the lock. I said, okay, cool. That was a one-time mishap. Guess what? That's a reason why they said they fired me. Another reason they said they fired me, did not complete required training or quizzes, prioritizing other tasks. Mind you, it was a training task that I got done, but there was other people in the store, such as guests, and they always say whenever a guest is on the floor, do not like do your training, you need to focus on the guests. So I wasn't really prioritizing like they said, because if the guests are in the store and y'all say that they're the first priority, of course I'm gonna handle the guests first and then do the assignment later, right? So once the store cleared up, my manager was like, hey, did you finish the task? And I was like, oh no, I didn't get a chance. There was a crowd of guests that came in, and so I handled them first before doing it. She said, okay, well, make sure you get it done. Guess what? I made sure I got it done. Nothing ever was brought up about that. That was the reason that they fired me. Another reason why they said they fired me was engaging in peer conversation and personal phone use on the floor. So I can give them that, because one thing about me, I am a very personable person. I am going to interact with the people around me, and I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I didn't engage with my coworkers. Like, I used to talk to my coworkers on the shift all the time. You're with these people all day and you're just trying to make the time go by, especially if there's no guests in the store. I'm going to talk to my coworkers, or if I've already greeted all the guests in the store, yeah, I'm going to talk to my coworker. I've already done my job. What's next? Like, the next thing is to see whenever they're ready to check out, or if they want to demo a product, and I do just that. But they had an issue with that, and I made sure I nipped that in the bud. No problem, right? And as well as they made a complaint because I would use my Apple Watch to text back. And once they made that complaint, I said, okay, I will stop doing that. I do apologize about that. And I do take accountability, because one thing about me, I was always going to be texting back on my Apple Watch. But once they made a complaint about that, that immediately stopped. And that was just that, okay? Another reason they said they fired me was because did not verify guest information when creating orders, causing errors and delays. And it was all over because a lady had gave me her email, and I typed in the name on her email, and it was a busy day that day. So when they brought out her order, they said the name from her email, and she didn't respond immediately. So then I came up to them and I said, hey, oh, let me get the order. It's for this guest over here, right? So then when the guest was like on their way to me as I was bringing them their order, they was like, oh, that was just like my email name. And my manager got upset because I put the name, and mind you, it was just like, when you look at their email, it was just like a regular like name that I wouldn't question, like, oh, that's not their name. Their email was like Taylor@MSN or something like that. And so I'm like, I put Taylor on the bag, and they were like, oh, that's not my first name, that's my middle name. And I was just like, okay, like, I apologize about that, whatever. But my managers seemed to make a big thing about it and caused a huge ruckus. So that's why they said that they fired me. They said also, improperly approaching guests while another editor was assisting, causing confusion, which has not been the case. That has never happened. What has happened was, there's been many a times where I wasn't on the floor for a minute, whether I stepped to the restroom or I just got off my 15-minute break, and I'll step on the floor, see that there's guests on the floor, and I don't see anybody interacting with them. So I usually just walk up, hey, welcome in. Are you browsing for anything in specific today? And then they'll either say, oh yeah, I'm just looking for this, or yeah, I'm just browsing, or oh no thank you, I don't need no help. That's literally it. And I've had a few times where my managers have been like, I've already greeted them, like, why are you greeting them? But then there's other moments where I would see them greet these guests, so I don't greet them because they've already been greeted, and then they get upset at me for not greeting them. So it's just like, either do you want them to be greeted or not? Like, I'm just trying to do my job. My job is to check on the guests, make sure that they're okay, see what they're looking to get, if they're even looking to get anything, and then go on about my business if that's not the case. And that's exactly what I do. Once they made that complaint, I fixed it. Another reason why they said they fired me was requested a team member coverage for greet without HOP approval. HOP is the managers. And this is what happened. So I was greeter this specific day, because on the weekends is when we have greeters, right? And so that just means that I just greet whoever comes in for that hour. So with that being said, I was greeting people, and it had been 15 minutes over my time. And so my friend, she was supposed to be the one greeting, and I was like 15 minutes past my 15-minute break. Like I hadn't taken my break yet and I had to really use the bathroom. And so my friend come up and was like, oh girl, why you didn't tell me that you was supposed to be going on your 15? Like I would have been got up here and got in my position. Like why you ain't say nothing? I was like, oh, it's cool. Like I don't be tripping just because, you know, I understand getting caught up talking to the guests or just not even looking at the time or even the zone chart. So it's just like, I was just like, I'm not tripping. And she was just like, okay, well, I'm gonna get on my post soon because I have a guest trying to check out. Like they are shopping around, but they told me a few items that they want. I said, okay, well, can you hurry up because like I'm starving, I have to use the restroom. So then I could wait like 5 more minutes, and before she even had came up to me, my manager at like 5 minutes after I was supposed to be off the post was like, hey, so-and-so is supposed to be on post, but she's helping a guest right now. So once she's done, then you can go on your 15 and get off of greeting. I said, okay, cool. So then that's when my friend came up to me and said what she said. So then I waited like another 5 minutes and I asked my coworker, I said, hey, do you mind being greeted real quick? Because my friend doesn't know when this guest is going to be done and I don't want to like rush her anymore, but like I really have to use the restroom and I want to go on my 15. My coworker said, okay, cool, that's no problem. But my manager heard me and was like, oh, why didn't you ask me? Like, why didn't you communicate that to me? And I said, well, because y'all are well aware that I was supposed to be on my 15 and not greet her, and you never said anything, so I'm not like, I didn't see the issue with that. I thought I could ask my coworker to just stand at my post for 5 minutes. Like I didn't see that was like a problem, but okay. And that was just that. Well, that was a reason that they said they fired me. And the last reason that I'm going to tell you, because the rest was just little like bullshit, the last reason they said they fired me was because a few weeks ago, I decided to buy their new utility tote, and I'm going to put it on the screen, right? And they were offering a special. If you get the tote, you can add charms to it, right? And so on the sign, it does say 3, but on multiple days, I've seen 2 different managers give multiple guests 4 patches or more. And so with that being said, when I bought the bag, since I bought it with my money, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna add some patches, and I added 5, right? And so I added the 5, and then as I'm ironing on one of the patches, my manager was like, oh, why do you have 5 on it? You know it's supposed to be 3. And so I put one back, and I was like, oh, well, I've seen the other managers give multiple people more than 3 patches. And she's like, well, the signs say 3. And I was just like, oh, well, like I said, I just seen them give multiple guests multiple patches. And she was like, well, I didn't approve of it. And I was just like, okay. And that's all I said, because what do you want me to say? So then after that, a few days later, when I come into work, the manager, Miss Hader, she proceeds to be like, hey, so Miss Run That Mouth told me that you were telling her that we gave you permission to take 5 patches. And I said, I never said that. And my manager was like, so you never said that? And she said it just like that. And y'all, that was the first time I ever got smart with her, because I don't know who you think you feeling like, but you not that girl. Like I will chop you in your throat, baby and all, because she pregnant. So anyways, after she said that, I said, I never said that. And that's probably what set her off to be like, yeah, I gotta get this bitch up out of here, because that actually happened the last time. Not the last time we worked together, but like the shift before that. So anyways, she was like, okay. And it was just that, right? I go about my business, and I didn't get to go on my shift Monday because I had a flat tire and AAA took 10 million years to come. So anyways, like I said, just a few days ago is when I had that conversation with my manager, Miss Hader, right? And so I worked my shift yesterday just fine, no problems. I come in today and I see Miss Renat Mel. So I immediately confront her about it. I was like, hey, I'm not sure why you would say this, but I don't understand why you told her a lie when you know I didn't say that. And she's like, you didn't say that? I said, I didn't say that. Because don't piss me off right now. Like, you know, I never said I got permission. I clearly said I seen them give it to multiple guests, so that's why I took it. Because you know what? If I'm going to do something, I'm going to own it, because bitch, I did it for a reason. Yeah, even if I didn't understand why I did it in that moment, I still do shit for a reason. So I'm like, don't piss me off, because you know I never said that. And she was like, oh, well, I'm sorry. Like, I could have sworn you said that. And I was like, nope, that's not the case. But I just wanted to clarify, because I just didn't want it to be a misunderstanding. So then I just work my shift, right? So then the big reveal comes when I'm packing an order for a guest, and this is right before I take my 15-minute break, right? So I'm packing an order for a guest, talking to one of my managers who just got promoted to a manager. And so she was telling me how she found out that the Glossier plush blush, little like cloud paint powder blushes like got exposed. And she was like, oh, because they have a subreddit, and what people do is typically look up when a business patents something, and then they just find out through that, because whenever companies go and patent anything, it's public, within like public knowledge. You can look it up, you can kind of see those things, so it gives you an idea of what they're about to put out. And so that's how it got exposed, because she said that she found out about it like a month before our managers even told us about it. Mind you, the only reason I found out about it is because I think I seen something on TikTok, and I was like, and then the next day I came into work and my managers mentioned how it got exposed on social media, and that if guests came in we couldn't talk about it or whatever, and we had to be incognito. And so that's just what we did until they did the big release. But yeah, that was the reason, or some of the reasons, that they said they fired me. And honestly, I'm happy to be out of that job, because they were so horrible. Miss Hater, she was very condescending, and she was such a bitch, like such an asshole. And I'm not chalking it up to her being pregnant, because to be a bitch, you gotta been that from day one. They didn't come for no motherfucking kid, okay? Don't blame that on a child. A child don't come out evil. They become evil. Humans become evil. So you always had that bitch in you before the baby. And so I don't know if maybe the hormones amplified it, but she was just a mega bitch. And I'm like, you know what your problem is?
You know what's your problem?
You want to be a white girl.
Is that you really want to be a white girl.
Bone straight, okay? And she talked in a very type of tone where it was giving very much I was the only Negro out of all of my friend group. That's what she gave. And then my manager, the one who didn't know how to be not a pussy and just say what she had to say about my shoes, she was a weird ass bitch. She was very passive aggressive, and she would just do little stuff and say little funny things, and I used to just be like, okay bitch, like don't piss me off. And she used to come in with an attitude every day, and I'm like, your body is literally tea, and you actually kind of like, you actually pretty, so like why the fuck you got a funky attitude every motherfucking day? Every day, bitch, you got a motherfucking attitude. Like, I never understood it. Funky ass attitude. And then my other coworker, who was my manager, she was a Caribbean lady from the Bahamas, and I'm not gonna lie, me and her did not, you know, get along the first time we met. Like, we did not rub each other the right way, and I wasn't really fucking with her. But out of nowhere, she started being really nice. Like the last few weeks I was here, maybe because she knew a bitch was about to get fired, I don't know, but she started being randomly nice. So I said, okay, I'll give you a pass, because, you know, maybe she just wasn't having a good few days when we met, okay? And then Miss Run That Mouth, other than her always running that motherfucking mouth anytime I did even anything besides blink, she was all right. Like, she wasn't bad to talk to. Like I didn't mind talking to her to pass the time or whatnot, but at the same time I knew not to get too comfortable with her. I knew not to get too comfortable, because she was gonna run that motherfucking mouth every fucking time, bitch. Yeah, run that motherfucking mouth every motherfucking time, because she the bitch that told on me when I sat down for 5 minutes, y'all. Literally, the store was empty, and at this point it had maybe like an hour before it closed, y'all. I sat down for 5 minutes, and she came out from the back, and I immediately got up, and she was like, oh, you know, I don't see no issue with you sitting down, but don't do that in front of the other managers. Like, don't get caught or get comfortable doing that, because they will try to like watch you up. Y'all, I said, okay, cool, like thank you for like letting me know. Do y'all know the next day another manager approached me about it and was like, oh, why were you sitting down? And I was like, what the fuck? Like, bitch, you just said you didn't give a fuck. So how you ain't give a fuck, but you over here running that motherfucking mouth? That's why I call her Miss That Run That Mouth. And y'all, I'm not gonna lie, as soon as I walked out that job, I sent them the nastiest email, bitch. I'm gonna put it up on this motherfucking screen, bitch. I cussed their asses the fuck out. And I might have to run up in there and do it in person, just in case if the message wasn't clear enough. Fuck all y'all at Glossier, bitch. Fuck you hoes. Fuck y'all not having a deep damn bronzer shade, bitch. Why is this darkest shade my skin tone? Fuck y'all for not having a deep ass lip liner either. Why is the darkest lip liner lighter than this brown? This don't make no motherfucking sense, okay? That don't make no motherfucking sense, bitch. Like, fuck Glossier. Fuck the people at Atlanta Glossier, specifically the management. And yeah, that's just what I gotta say. Hope you liked the video. Like, comment, subscribe for more content like this. I'll see you guys later. Arrivederci.